bigger than a coach. LSU is culture. LSU doesn't need Brian Kelly. Think about it. Think about the current NFL stars that we're seeing. Guys like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, former NFL stars, Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, even WNBA stars and LSU stars, Flau'jae and Angel Reese. There's so much culture that people love the LSU, the brand, the name. They called it DBU for the longest time. And so whether Brian Kelly is there or Brian Kelly isn't, players are going to want to go to a place like LSU. Even in the media, Ryan Clark and Swagoo, they wear their emotion and their LSU on their sleeve. So this is an unbelievable opportunity for anybody who gets this coaching job. It's not like a place like Florida where it could be more of a struggle to try and get things turned around. The talent is there in Florida, but also at LSU. And there's so much of a winning culture, if you will, so much talent that you could pretty much walk in and win.
All right, bottom line, though, all great points. They do need a coach, that's for sure. I'm not an insider, but I know that much. So, Pete, let's go to you. So I'm thinking James Franklin gets fired on a Sunday. 6 days later, he shows up with you and the game day gang and says immediately, I want a coach, and the race is on. So tell us what the future holds, the immediate future here for Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I've been told by sources that Brian Kelly does want to coach again, whether that's immediately next season or down the line. Brian Kelly's plan is to return coaching in college football. Look, Zubin, LSU is a place that has churned out championships, sometimes despite its head coaches, right? And Brian Kelly won 71% of his games there. The people in charge at LSU did not view that as good enough. They didn't view 71% of the games there as enough to continue going. But Brian Kelly is the winningest active football coach. I guess he's not active anymore, but he wasn't until Saturday. The winningest active football coach in college football right now in terms of total wins. He won at Grand Valley. He won at Cincinnati. He won at Central Michigan. He won big at Notre Dame. There's another act left for Brian Kelly, and I'd expect him to chase that in the near future.
Yeah, he is 276 as an FBS coach. Let that sink in for a second. 200 wins, 76 losses. We're more followed to you, Pete. I just thought it was coincidental, maybe ironic, that LSU was playing Texas A&M on Saturday because Scott Woodward, who was once the athletic director at A&M, now LSU, has signed off on, literally and figuratively, the two biggest buyouts in all of college football history. Jimbo Fisher followed by Brian Kelly. Who is going to end up making this critical hire for LSU if I'm telling you that's the most recent history with Woodward's coaching hires?
Yeah, Zubin, as of right now, and look, it's Louisiana and Louisiana politics. Everything is very fluid, very volatile. Remember, the governor wanted a live tiger on the sidelines and had a large public push for that last year when we were down there for College Game Day. So certainly nothing is certain or stable. But as of right now, Scott Woodward's name is on the press release, and he is pushing forward to make this hire. Scott Woodward's playbook is a simple one. He is a big game hunter. No pun intended with Mike the Tiger there. Scott Woodward hired Chris Peterson from Boise to Washington. He hired Jimbo Fisher initially at Texas A&M. I believe Ross Bjork signed off on the extension there that led to the bigger buyout. And then obviously he hired Buzz Williams at Texas A&M, left a couple days later, and then hired Brian Kelly at LSU. He is not going to look for the special teams coach from McNeese for this job, Zubin. If you look at his history, that is how he is going to fulfill it. And as of right now, he is the one leading the search. There is no president at LSU, so there's a power vacuum there. And not surprisingly, with the volatile nature of Louisiana politics, people are trying to fill that power vacuum.
No doubt. Governor Landry heavily involved, and the LSU president just became the Rutgers president, so there is a leadership vacuum in place. So the next question really comes down to, it's the sea change of everybody looking for a coach. The Power 4 head coaching openings. There are some bold-faced schools here looking for a head coach that will likely be chasing Lane Kiffin. Kiffin was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he talked about money not being a factor, but it might be for his agent.
I have never made a decision based off of money, nor will I. And
Love that.
For a lot of people, they're just like, well, money and it does this and does that. I've seen too many examples in life where money does not buy happiness. So I am never going to make a decision off of money, nor do I care about it. And
it's good to have.
Jimmy Sexton gets really mad when I say that.
He's got enough.
We got to get this. We got to get this. And I'm like, Jimmy, I don't care. And he goes, I do.
That's some great stuff from Lane. I don't want to be too Pollyanna-ish about this, Pete, but his extended family has moved back there. His son is playing really well for the local high school football team. He had a game-winning touchdown a couple of weeks ago. I understand money's money, but he's 50 now, and he seems like he's in a different place in life. That said, if we were in the fast lane, looking at a place 4 lane, what are we thinking about in terms of what's out there and the buzz you're seeing?
Yeah, Zubin, there's no question that Lane Kiffin is the buzz, and he is on the lips of the power brokers at both Florida and LSU. And look, what Ole Miss has helped him build there has been incredible. And I think if you look back at what the piece Ryan McGee did for E60 on Lane Kiffin, we'll either look at that as a love letter if he stays or a thank you letter if he leaves. Right now, it's hard to imagine Lane Kiffin coaching at Ole Miss next year. The opportunity that looms at either LSU or Florida is too big. The variable here, Zubin, that's going to be fascinating and is going to loom over the last 2 months of this season is how the dynamics would work if Ole Miss indeed does make the playoff, which they are on target to do right now if they keep winning as they have. Regular season ends November 29th. They could play in the SEC champ game a week later, and the college football playoff does not start until December 19th. It would either be a high wire act where whatever job wants Lane and has some kind of agreement with Lane, maybe verbally, keeps the job open and waits for it to happen when it would be obvious it plays out that way, or they announce it beforehand, which would be awkward too. So it's going to be a fascinating race here for Lane Kiffin and to see how he handles it with a playoff team.
No question, Pete, because, you're risking a recruiting class, you're risking a transfer portal class, yet at the same time, the reason you're hiring the guy is because potentially he's going to take this team deep into the playoffs. There used to be a saying in the coaching profession, you're never going to get rich in coaching. Well, that's no longer true and hasn't been since the advent of cable television. And Lane Kiffin's right. All right, whether you're making $7 million or $9 million, $8 million or $11 million, when you've already acquired generational wealth, you get to make these decisions based off of, do you want a new challenge? Do you want to be at a place that you think is better resourced to give you an opportunity to get your team to Atlanta, to not just make the college football playoff, but be a legitimate national title contender each and every year? So when money's removed from that equation, you can make some more clear-headed decisions on what's best for you and what you think the future of your career is going to be. And I think that's a healthy place for Lane Kiffin or any other coach in the mix. James Franklin, all of these guys, they don't have to worry about putting food on the table. They can make decisions based off the industry strength of where they could end up.
Fascinating perspective, Tom. Sam, let's go to you. The polar opposite here. Brian Kelly may not have been a good fit at LSU, but who in the world could have been a better fit than Mr. Cajun Country himself, Ed Orgeron? So those are two extremes. Both coached the teams, both ended up out, but both had polar opposite views of what actually makes you fit at a program like that. You played. Take me inside the world of fit and culture and how that plays a part in how these hirings will be made.
Well, the biggest thing is don't try to win the press conference. Try to win the actual game. We've seen so many teams, whether it's the athletic director or the people who are given a lot of the money, want to win the press conference, get a hire that they think makes sense, but that doesn't connect with the players in the locker room or the players who are being recruited. And I think that's where a lot of these organizations are losing. Look at Bill Belichick right now. Bill Belichick and Bubba Cunningham, the AD at North Carolina, they won the press conference, right? You saw him with the pullover sleeveless, not a hoodie, but a jacket. Man, it looked great. Well, they're 2-5 right now. They can't find a way to win. Versus the other side is Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti did not win the press conference, at least in my opinion. He was on Indiana halftime basketball trying to cheer on, saying, hey, man, he says, what he's talking about. He's like, man, Michigan sucks. Ohio State sucks. They were laughing at him when he said that in Bloomington. Yet now all of a sudden they're one of the best teams in the nation. So you have to think more long term. Luke, you talked about generational wealth when it comes to these coaches and how much money they're making. But when you think about some of the players, think about the next generation of kids and who's going to be coaching them and shaping those young men, not necessarily the decision makers or the boosters who are trying to win the press conference.
Well, Sam, you're so right. This decision needs to be so much more about substance than flair, right? And unfortunately, to Pete's point earlier about some of the dynamics of politics and bureaucracy and the hands in the cookie jar that get involved in all of these decisions, somebody, whether that's the AD, the president, whoever the decision maker is in this institution, whoever it may be, That person's going to have to be strong enough to tell everybody in the peanut gallery, you stay over there, shut your mouths, this is what we're doing, this is who we're hiring, and this is why. And that's not an easy thing to do, all right? Kansas did it with Lance Leipold, all right? Clark Lee was a coordinator at Notre Dame, now at Vanderbilt. Brent Key was an offensive line coach, had not been a coordinator, was the interim coach at Georgia Tech. That guy had the guts to say, this is the guy that fits us the best. So now we'll see if some of these big boys have that same level of intestinal fortitude.
Necessarily the sexiest hire. I understand he had time at A&M as a defensive coordinator, but man, this guy was at Duke and a defensive mind, yet look at what he's done to the A&M program. And so it has to be less about the ADs and the boosters, really less about the boosters, and the ADs have to have the courage to make a decision that's best for the players in the program.
Yeah, last thing I would mention, the 3 sitting head coaches right now in our sport with a national championship, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney, Ryan Day, none of them were head coaches until they got the job they currently have. You can win in a variety of different ways. On the way here.
I think Virginia is a team that we need to be talking about more for an ACC championship. Why? Because from all the teams that are competitive, Virginia has the easiest path there. North Carolina has been struggling mightily. Cal is a great opportunity. Wake Forest, obviously Duke is going to be a challenge, but man, I look at Virginia's schedule versus the schedules of a Georgia Tech and a Miami, and that's an easier path for me if thinking of Virginia. I think Pitt's been playing outstanding as well, but their schedule isn't as conducive to making a championship as Virginia's is.
Time to go buy lottery tickets with Sam. I mean, that was something else. That was last week on the show. You probably saw what happened over the weekend, another heartbreaking defeat for North Carolina. But for the purposes of this discussion, it's UVA that was able to escape with the win after stopping Carolina right there on that 2-point conversion try. They've had 3 overtime games. They had a safety late to beat Washington State. They are living on a razor's edge. They are the cardiac Cavs. They are getting it done. Sam, I want to go to you first here on this. A reminder, their one loss was to NC State. It's a conference opponent, but it's not a conference game. Just keep that in mind down the stretch with how jumbled the ACC is. So a week later, here we are back in color now. Do you still buy into what you said last week?
Absolutely buy into it. Why? Because you talked about it. This last 4 games, 3 of them Virginia has won in overtime. You might say that's luck, or maybe that's just a team that knows how to win. Last week versus Washington State, at the end of the game, Tony Elliott gave an impassioned speech saying, guys, we have something on our hands. We have a chance to make history. Let's not waste it. North Carolina last week played a really, really good game, yet they came up just and short. They didn't make the plays, and Virginia did, even though Virginia did struggle throughout the game. So I still believe, not just based off of their schedule, which I still think is favorable, but also based off the fact that they have an understanding of how to win.
Well, you talked about the schedule being favorable. Let's take a look at it. Best chance to reach the ACC championship game. Right now, the analytics still say Georgia Tech is the overwhelming favorite to reach the title game, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't make the playoff, and that's the distinction I want to go to here with Tom. Right before the break, Tom, I mentioned that you were coming up with a way that, Miami doesn't even have to make